In a world where heroes are most often created by special effects, there was one man who created them with his body. He was not the son of a billionaire. He did not have superpowers. He did not wear a mask. But every jump he made was a defying of gravity. Every punch he made was a result of pain, training, and stubbornness. His childhood was not a movie, but survival. His youth was a school of pain. His path was not the path of a star, but the path of a warrior, an artist, and a stubborn dreamer. He was not recruited by producers. He was not raised by the industry. He himself broke down walls. He himself rose after falls, and he himself became a legend. His name is Jackie Chan. This is not a tale of fame. This is not just a story about kung fu. This is the story of a man who challenged the impossible, not because I wanted glory, but because I didn't know how to give up. Buckle up, because now you're going to walk a path where every fall is just a reason to rise higher, where fear is fuel, where pain is a coach, and if you listen to the end, perhaps you too will become a hero. This story is about you, but he played it. It wasn't a shiny maternity ward, not a soft bed, not congratulations with flowers. It was 1954. Hong Kong, in poverty, in ruins, on the brink. A boy was born, a small, compressed bundle of life, with such energy that he was kicking even before he learned to cry. The parents were poor immigrants, a cook and a maid, worked at the embassy, ate leftovers, lived on crumbs, and now another mouth. They didn't have enough money even for themselves, and they seriously thought about selling the child for $26, not because they didn't love him, but because the world was cruel then. But at the last moment, the heart won over reason, and the mother hugged the baby to herself. "We will survive. Together," she whispered. They named him Chan Kong Sang. In Chinese, it means born in Hong Kong. A name is like a stamp of fate. He didn't grow up like an ordinary child. He didn't play with toys. He fell down the stairs, crawled on roofs, did somersaults, and laughed all the time. The parents said, "This boy is not of this world." He was born to move. At school, he was restless, noisy, and by all the teacher standards, hopeless. No reading, no math. Only pranks, fights, bruises, and running on roofs. The parents didn't know what to do. And then, when he was only 7, they made a choice that changed everything. He was sent to the Beijing Opera School. But this was no ordinary school. This was the army, a survival camp. 10 years, 24/7, no days off. They didn't teach you to play instruments there. They taught you to be patient. Getting up at 5 a.m., stretching until it hurts, dozens of blows, hundreds of falls, no tears, no mercy. The slightest mistake, the crack of a bamboo stick on your back. There he learned to move, but most importantly, there he learned to stand. When other children broke down, he looked at the floor and continued. The teacher once said, "You are weak. You will not become like Bruce Lee." The boy raised his head, clenched his fists, and said, "I will become Jackie Chan." He did not yet know how, exactly, but he already felt pain is not an enemy. It is a mentor, and every day he survived at school brought him closer to a future that no one could predict. It wasn't a shiny maternity ward, not a soft bed, not congratulations with flowers. It was 1954. Hong Kong, in poverty, in ruins, on the brink. A boy was born, a small, compressed bundle of life, with such energy that he was kicking even before he learned to cry. The parents were poor immigrants, a cook and a maid, worked at the embassy, ate leftovers, lived on crumbs, and now another mouth. They didn't have enough money even for themselves, and they seriously thought about selling the child for $26, not because they didn't love him, but because the world was cruel then. But at the last moment, the heart won over reason, and the mother hugged the baby to herself. "We will survive. Together," she whispered. They named him Chan Kong Sang. In Chinese, it means born in Hong Kong. A name is like a stamp of fate. He didn't grow up like an ordinary child. He didn't play with toys. He fell down the stairs, crawled on roofs, did somersaults, and laughed all the time. The parents said, "This boy is not of this world." He was born to move. At school, he was restless, noisy, and by all the teacher standards, hopeless. No reading, no math. Only pranks, fights, bruises, and running on roofs. The parents didn't know what to do. And then, when he was only 7, they made a choice that changed everything. He was sent to the Beijing Opera School. But this was no ordinary school. This was the army, a survival camp. 10 years, 24/7, no days off. They didn't teach you to play instruments there. They taught you to be patient. Getting up at 5 a.m., stretching until it hurts, dozens of blows, hundreds of falls, no tears, no mercy. The slightest mistake, the crack of a bamboo stick on your back. There he learned to move, but most importantly, there he learned to stand. When other children broke down, he looked at the floor and continued. The teacher once said, "You are weak. You will not become like Bruce Lee." The boy raised his head, clenched his fists, and said, "I will become Jackie Chan." He did not yet know how, exactly, but he already felt pain is not an enemy. It is a mentor, and every day he survived at school brought him closer to a future that no one could predict. After 10 years at school, he was as tense as a string, muscles of steel, movements of precision, body of a machine. But he had no money, no connections, no chance, only a dream. He wanted to be in the movies, not for fame, but to express himself. He came to the set, alone, without an agent, without recommendations, only with a body that had known pain and a face full of naive hope. They accepted him, but not as an actor, a stuntman. His task? Fall down the stairs, get hit, fly into a table. The actors receive flowers. He, bruises. Every day is a danger. Every take is like a war. They set him on fire, throwed him from rooftops, throwed him through glass. He broke bones, but not his spirit. He came back, again and again. Because even in the toughest scene, he smiled. He didn't just do stunts, he lived them. But the directors didn't notice. He was one of them, without words, without a name in the credits. Then they gave him a chance, a small role in a film. He played, tried, gave it his all, and the film failed. Then, the second. And again silence. The dream was crumbling. There was not enough money even for food. He slept in the basement, ate noodles for 3 days in a row. Sometimes, and without food at all, people said, "Listen, stop, find a job. You are nobody. You are not Bruce Lee." He listened and was silent, but inside it burned. Not malice, not envy, but thirst. He began to record his falls, to film himself flying across the table as he crashed into the wall. How he survived. He began to study comedy, not because he wanted to be funny, but because he understood suffering and humor are two wings of the same flight. He began to combine acrobatics, pain, and laughter. And in this, something new was born, his style. He no longer copied. He no longer tried to be someone. He became himself. And fate? She watched attentively, because when a person does not give up, she also gives in and opens the door. And this door was already approaching. but he did not know about it yet. One day, a call came. A director named Ewan Woping was looking for an unusual actor, not a copy of Bruce Lee, not another stone-faced fighter. He wanted movement, energy, a smile even in a fight. He called Jackie. He came, not in a suit, not with pathos, in worn-out sneakers and with eyes in which the whole world was burning. The director asked, "Can you do stunts?" He answered, "I can survive." And so the film was born that changed everything. Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. Jackie jumped, fell, laughed, dodged, got hit, but each time he got up with a sparkle in his eyes. His character was not invincible. He was human. He suffered failures, stumbled, made mistakes, and in this, the audience recognized themselves. People in the cinemas laughed, came alive, and after the final fight, stood up and applauded. It was not just a success, it was the birth of a new star. But Jackie did not stop. Immediately after came the second film, Drunken Master. There he showed that a fight can be a dance, that even in chaos, there can be style. He turned the rules upside down. Before him, fighters on the screen were like statues. He was a river, soft, flexible, but unbroken. He did not just fight. He told stories through movement, and the audience understood. This is not just an actor. This is a new genre. His style quickly became recognizable. Jumping over walls, hits woven into humor, objects turned into weapons, a chair, a frying pan, a ladder, a refrigerator. Everything is a tool. Everything is a stage. Every stunt seemed to say, "Look what you can do if you're not afraid to fall." The director started saying, "We want like Jackie." And he didn't chase fame. He worked, he tried. He shot scenes in 20 takes. He did one stunt for 2 weeks, all for one effect, so that the viewer would believe. Because Jackie Chan never played a hero. He was one, but not because he was stronger than everyone else, but because every time life knocked him down, he got up with a smile. He became a star. His face is on every poster. His name is on billboards, in the news, in the hearts of millions. He didn't just achieve success. He created a new cinema. But fame is not the end. It's a new fight. And this fight is without stuntmen. The higher you rise, the more painful the fall. And Jackie fell, seriously. On the set of one of the films, he had to jump from the roof onto a tree. A simple trick? For an ordinary actor, it's impossible. For him, it's a working moment. The first take is a failure. The second, broken branches. The third, he fell. Flight. A hit on the ground. Silence. He broke his skull. Hemorrhage. They almost lost him. And do you know what he asked first thing in the hospital? Did they shoot the take? Not "Am I okay?" Not "Will I survive?" But did they? Because cinema was his life. Jackie began to understand every film is a battle, with schedules, with producers, with pain. His body is a map of wounds. Fractures, nose, collarbone, fingers, neck, ribs, ankles, pelvis, and even eye socket. One day he slipped on stage and cracked his skull so hard that part of the bone was pressed into the brain. He had surgery and still wears a plastic plug in his head. But you know what? He came back. Filming stopped for a couple of weeks. Then he was back in the frame. He became not only an actor, he became a director, a stunt coordinator, an editor, a producer, because he couldn't trust his work to others. He created entire teams, trained young people, manually staged fight scenes, where each frame is like a dance of pain. He is a perfectionist. If the frame is not perfect, we reshoot it. Let it be 147 takes. He didn't need a green screen. He needed reality, and that came at a price. While other actors were going to dinner, he was icing his knee. While others were winning Oscars, he was getting another injury. And all this without insurance, because insurance companies refused to work with him. Too dangerous, they said. He smiled. And you try living with my body. Inside he felt, I am more than a stuntman. I am a storyteller. And if for the sake of the story I have to break through the wall with my body, then I will. But he also felt something else. It gets harder with each passing year. The body doesn't get any younger. The risks are growing. And a new fear came. And what next? What will happen when I can't jump? Who am I without tricks? The answer didn't come right away. But he understood. I'm not talking about punches. I'm talking about will, about style, about the soul. And so he began to change his approach. Less madness, more meaning. Less pain, more history. He began to make films where the stunts were not just a show, but a reflection of the hero's inner struggle. He began to play drama. He spoke seriously on the screen. People saw, this man is not just fighting. He speaks to the world through bones, bruises, and blood. And so when he was invited to Hollywood, he came not as a newcomer, he came as a legend. But that's another chapter, and this one ends like this. He paid, with his body, with time, with pain. But he didn't regret a second, because every scar on him is a signature. The signature under the phrase, I was, I fought, I won. Fame in Asia, already there. Fans met him at hotels. Movie tickets sold out in hours. In Hong Kong, he was called a living legend. But for the rest of the world, he was still an Asian actor who does funny stunts. His name was quiet in Hollywood. They looked at him and said, he's weird. He speaks with an accent. He's not Bruce Lee. And Jackie was back where he had been many years ago. In the beginning, his first experience in Hollywood was unsuccessful. He was cast in secondary roles. He was edited in such a way that his style was lost. They asked him, move slower, speak differently. He felt like a shadow, not an actor. He tried to show, I'm not just a fighter, I'm an artist. But they didn't listen to him. The producers wanted another fighter. But Jackie knew he was not a stunt double, he was a creator. He returned to Asia, but not as a loser, but as someone who understood. To win in someone else's world, you need to bring your own. And when Hollywood called again, he came by his own rules. The film was called Rush Hour. Funny, absurd. He doubted. The script seemed stupid. But Chris Tucker was there, a hurricane of energy and humor. And suddenly, magic. Their contrast became the main weapon. East and west, silence and thunder, calm and madness. When the film came out, an explosion. The audience fell in love with charisma, with style, with a smile that was stronger than any punch. In the USA, Jackie Chan became a name. He was known. They waited for him. He acted on television. He was invited to shows. He became the first Asian actor who directed, and starred in an action movie himself, and at the same time made America laugh. He didn't change for Hollywood. He changed Hollywood for himself. His style became a world language. Without words, without translation, he proved, in every culture there is a place for sincerity. But he didn't forget who he was. He didn't let fame make him empty. He still did his own stunts. He still laughed on camera, even when it hurt. And when they asked him, are you a star now? He replied, I'm just a guy who likes to jump, from the east to the west, from the basements to the red carpet. He didn't conquer the world. He simply gave himself to the world. And that was enough for millions to say, thank you, Jackie. You are our hero. All his life he ran, through scenes, through filming, through blood and spotlights. He ran forward because he knew, if you stop, doubts will catch up. But over the years, he realized sometimes you don't have to run, but look back. Somewhere between the next blockbuster and the press conference, for the first time he was left in a room, alone. No camera, no microphone, no lines, just him and the silence. And he asked himself, who am I now? Not for the audience, not for the press, for himself. He remembered his parents, how his father worked as a cook at the embassy, how his mother washed other people's clothes, how they sent him to the Beijing Opera School, not because they wanted fame, but because they wanted a better future for their son. He remembered his childhood, where instead of toys, there were wooden swords, and instead of sleep, there were training sessions. And he realized everything he had grew out of pain, but the roots of that pain were love. He started building schools, funds, helping children from poor families. He said, you don't have to jump off the roof like me, but you have to believe like me. He started making films without fights, stories about family, about forgiveness, about aging. The audience was surprised at first. Where are the stunts? Where's the comedy? And he answered, but here's life. He could still hit, jump, run. But he began to listen more quietly. He began to teach young actors not just how to fall, but how to get up. He said, you can be cool on screen, but if you don't respect the crew, you're nobody. He didn't teach cinema. He taught humanity. When he was awarded the Oscar for his contribution to cinema, he did not cry. He simply looked into the audience and quietly said, I've been waiting for this 56 years. And the whole world stood up because they understood. In front of them was not an actor. In front of them was a symbol of labor, a symbol of perseverance, symbol of a soul that didn't give up. Today, he rarely acts. He chooses what to touch. He doesn't chase action. He looks for meaning. He lives in a house with a garden. He loves silence. Sometimes he goes outside and just looks at the sky. They ask him, would you change anything in the past? He smiles. No, because even the pain was necessary. This is the way of a true master. First, you learn to hit, then you learn to endure, and then forgive, let go, and share. Jackie Chan did not return to Hong Kong. He returned to himself.